Let's talk about planning and preparation. There's a quote by Yogi Berra that says, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. The thing is, in leadership, senior leaders in particular are in charge of creating strategy. Somewhere along the line, whether you're creating the strategy or helping cascade it through the organization, actually implementing it, you're going to be involved in planning. A strategy is simply a high level plan that provides direction and purpose. And the plan is then a detailed roadmap that outlines the steps that you're going to take to get to achieve that purpose and direction or that goal. Leaders have strategies. They make plans, they collaborate to enable plans, to prepare and to take action. And so your ability to do this in your personal life as well as a leader is something you actually have to work on. Planning, it's ideating, mapping out, thinking through, outlining, taking some action. Things like if you're going to plan a trip to go on holiday, you might determine the destination, find a date that you can actually take vacation, book and reserve the trip. And then let's say that plan is actually a hut to hut hiking trip in a faraway country. Now you need to do some preparation, right? So preparing, training for, gathering materials, anticipating, taking steps towards the plan that you're going to put into place. In this hut to hut vacation, you may do some research to figure out what the weather and climate is, to figure out if you have visa requirements, or, for example, if vaccinations might be required. And then you need to go figure out how to get your visa, get your vaccination scheduled, and get the paperwork supporting that, carry it with you. Or let's say because it's a hut to hut vacation, you want to make sure you're physically ready. So you start doing longer hiking trips on the weekend. Maybe you buy some special equipment, hiking poles or hiking boots, things that help you get ready for the trip. And then there's the everyday stuff that happens for any holiday or vacation where you actually have to pack your clothes, get a dog sitter, set up your out of office on your email, and make sure you have somebody to cover while you're out, get your apartment ready to be closed up for a week. Those are things that help you get ready for that trip. What's another example? You're going to attend a party and the party's at 8 o'clock. Now, you could wing it and you could say, hey, I'll figure it out closer to that time. I got a lot of stuff to do today. You could do a very detailed preparation. For example, you could say, hey, I don't really know where that party is. Let me look it up. Ugh, looks like it's about 30 minutes away, so I better plan. I'll order an Uber to pick me up at 7:30. And then you start thinking backwards. Okay, if the Uber's here at 7:30, how much time do I need to get ready for the party? I also have to walk my dog, maybe get a bite to eat. And so you start backing into your readiness for getting to this party on time. And then you monitor that, right? So you've got a basic timeline that you're trying to achieve in order to be in that Uber at 7:30, get to your party by 8. You start monitoring how you're doing against that. Maybe it took you longer to walk the dog than you thought. Now you don't have time to really sit down and eat, so you have to grab a granola bar. Or maybe it took you too long to find an outfit. And so now you need to speed up some of your preparation. Now, full disclosure here. I am highly aware that not everyone is great at planning and advanced preparation. Some of you are actually very successful while you're being spontaneous and charming and winging it. And that's great. But I think that my personal take on it is you're going to get further in your personal development and your leadership if you add in some planning and preparation. This is easy for me to say, y'all. I am naturally bent towards planning, and then I worked really hard to get better at it. I am that lady who has like the full spreadsheet agenda of dates and times and restaurants and tours. Well, not tours because I don't actually like tours, but all the possible things that we might potentially want to see or do when we go away on holiday. Now, the truth is, I'm also the lady who's not married to that plan. When we go on holiday, we've got options and we have wiggle room in case something amazing comes up. We have flexibility. Both are important in leadership. How I got better at planning and how I really honed that skill is a shout out to a prior boss. And I mean, boss, Donna. She recognized a natural inclination in me towards planning and details. And then she guided me, frankly, kicking and screaming, towards getting a project management professional degree, which honestly helped me in so many ways early in my career. So I do believe in planning. And I also love that I had a boss who helped me realize the value of that. What does that mean? It means this. Let's go back to the party at 8. Those were pedantic, tedious examples about how to get ready for a party. But when your plan is really important, your preparation for the plan is even more important. So let's take it a step further and say, what if that party that you're going to at 8 o'clock is really critical? It's crucial. Something about it that you have deliberately sought an invitation out because potentially the people there are going to help you meet a goal. Maybe there's an organization with people attending that are very important for you to know to start to get into your network. Maybe you want to become part of that organization. If something like that were the case, if you are trying to get to a part of your plan that is really an important step, it could mean success or not, then your preparation needs to go way, way further than just how much time does it take for me to get there on time? What do I need to do to back into that? No, it should look at things like, have I done research on the organization? Do I know what it takes to be successful in that organization? Who are the key players there? What other interests do they have? Do I know people who know them? Can I learn more about them? What can I offer freely with no other expectation to this organization to help them out? These are things that are going to help you get to your goal. And you have to prepare in advance and not just wing it. Generally, that's going to help you more. Dan Pink in The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing talks about a premortem. And the premortem idea, the concept, is attributed to a psychologist named Gary Klein. It essentially is saying that before any really big endeavor, you imagine what could go wrong in advance and address or mitigate it. I would say maybe do more than that. Maybe take it further than just imagining the negative. Imagine the possibilities of what you might come across in this particular endeavor. Imagine who you might meet, what you might say, what you might need to do or offer. Scenarios, pre-plan it in your mind so that you're better prepared and aware and capable in the moment that it happens. Cal Newport talks about being able to look in advance and plan things out. Now, he's being very specific to how to plan your time, how to plan your week and your day. He would say, for example, to map out the week in advance and then refine on a day-to-day basis as life sort of unfolds. He's talking about creating rituals and systems that allow you to honor how you've planned your time, but also be flexible with it. So what's an example of that? In a long portion of my career, I worked with a global company where the majority of my team was on a completely different time zone in a different country. And so they would be working while I was sleeping. How did I help adapt to that and get ready for that? Turn off my workday so I could rest and sleep, but also be available and be prepared. I started checking, not too close to bedtime, but before bedtime to see what was my day going to be like the next day. Were there any urgent messages that I needed to address at that time from my team? And what could I expect when I woke up in the morning? Not just what's the first meeting, but what is the whole day look like? Who are the meetings with? How prepared do I need to be? Now, I would have done preparation before this. This is another mental check. And so it might change things like this. If I see that the whole day is booked back to back in meetings, then I might get up a little bit earlier to get my exercise in and grab a protein shake before I hit that first call to make sure that I was able to make it through those meetings. If I didn't make that check and adjust my schedule, then often what I would find is I was out of energy and really tired at the end of the day because I hadn't made that small adjustment. So prepare for your week, prepare for your day. Also, prepare for meetings. So when you see what's on your calendar, you should be looking a couple days, sometimes weeks in advance, depending on the scope of the meeting, and get ready in advance. Don't wait till the day before or the day of to know who you're going to be talking to and have your reports, your information, your presentation really honed and ready. This is the same thing in your one-on-ones with your direct reports. Get ready for those. As a leader, you should have a plan for how you're developing your direct reports. And so walking into those meetings, you should have reviewed what your last conversations were, what questions you have, what progress has been made, what to do next. Those are things that help you prepare for actual activities that you go through. Now let's talk about two other things that you can prepare for, and that is the unexpected. If you are envisioning doing that pre-mortem for who you might meet or what might happen that could throw you off track, you're going to be better able to regulate, mitigate, and move forward. So if somebody really critical on your team is going to be out, what would happen? Or if you unexpectedly lose a customer or a contract, what would happen? And you're thinking through, if this happened, how would I adapt or pivot or cope? Now, another thing that you can prepare for is the next step. In your plan, in your life as a leader, as an individual, you want to be looking at what's the action I need to take next? How do I get to that next step? And I want you to remember this. You're preparing and you're making plans and preparing so that you can achieve your goals and outcomes. But not always are you going to get to exactly the place that you were expecting. In other words, life has a really interesting way of putting obstacles in our way that are actually opportunities in disguise. And you still need to take action, take step forward, and prepare for the objective that you're trying to attain. But recognize and be open to the idea that you don't always get to exactly where you thought you were going to land. But I guarantee you, if you're preparing, planning, taking action towards a goal, you're going to get where you're meant to be. Let's talk about what planning and preparation isn't. These are some classic examples. I see them over and over across many different organizations and teams. So check yourself, see if you are committing any of these. You've got a big presentation and you do a single read through, you maybe fix a word or a comma, and then you think you're ready. That's not it. Or you spend hours working on the plan, but you forget to actually research details or provide supporting data, look at the evidence, provide citations. That's not it. You wing something, maybe a presentation or a meeting, because you've done it 1,000 times before and you think every single audience is pretty much the same. I see a lot of salespeople doing that, by the way, where they're so used to selling something, they walk into a customer without sufficient preparation and they miss the mark. What about keeping that one-on-one with your direct report because it's on your schedule and you're both really, really busy and it's hard to reschedule, but you can't actually focus on that conversation because you're worried about something else that's come up. There's a big issue that you're trying to solve. And so you pause in trying to solve the issue so you can go to this meeting, but you're not listening, you're not engaged, you're not supporting and developing your leader, your direct report, because you're not there in that moment. It'd be better, more beneficial for both of you if you would actually take the time and get that meeting rescheduled. This one happens, you're going to probably see it happen this week because it happens a lot. Showing up to your team meeting and saying, okay, folks, what do you want to talk about today? No agenda, no preparation. Expecting somebody else to throw things on the table and then people grab at it and pick at it. Last one I'll mention is procrastination, waiting until a few days before the deadline and then pulling everyone together in a big scramble and saying, oh my gosh, we have to figure this out. None of that is proper leader preparation and planning. I'll give you, as we wrap this up, one last sort of story, an anecdote. It's a true story. Back in the day, well before 2007, if we were traveling, we needed maps. We often had directions, which included things like landmarks or streets or approximate durations. And then everybody got in their hand GPS. And so a lot of the legwork is taken out of figuring out how to get from A to B. But did you know that GPS does not work in all locations? Globally, it doesn't work. But even in the US, it doesn't work. There are places where there is insufficient cell signal and your GPS won't function. Or it functions, but it sends you down a road that clearly says, do not trespass no matter what your GPS says. This still happens, y'all. And so, true story, I have a relative who was once trying to get from Cincinnati to St. Louis, Missouri. Now, I understand that some of you suck at geography, and some of you are listening from outside of the US and may not be as familiar with geography. So I'll put a map up and show you. This is essentially a west-southwest drive. This relative got in their car, put the address in their GPS, and set off. And then hours later, after clearly ignoring pretty much every road sign that they could, they reached their address and they looked around and they thought, ooh, this doesn't feel right. Didn't look like the hotel they had booked. There was a grandma sitting in a rocking chair on a front porch looking at her funny. And after sort of second guessing and wondering, driving around the block, they decided to re-enter the information in the GPS. And only then, after hours of driving and lots of signs and information that could have been utilized, did they realize that they had entered MI for Michigan instead of MO for Missouri. To be fair, Michigan, it's an MN, right? And Missouri is an MI. I get it. But the thing is, and the real reason for this story is because we have to, when we're making a plan, take a look at the full map. Take a look at the whole route. Especially when you don't know what it should look like, ask in advance. Ask other people, what should I experience as I'm working towards a certain plan? What will I see or observe? What should happen? And then pay attention as you're on that route to the signals around you. We get signals all the time. They're critical components to helping us understand if we're on track or not. And when something isn't going to plan, you pause and recalibrate as soon as you can. That is successful planning and preparation. When you're not prepared, when you haven't thought through a situation in advance or practiced how you're going to respond to it or handle it, you leave it to chance. You'll be caught off guard, potentially say the wrong thing or not say enough, and you can react poorly. So identify a few key situations in your life, at your job, and prepare for them. Practice what you'll say, practice what you'll do. That's how you're going to really develop into boss leadership when it comes to planning and practicing and preparation. Okay, if you are still stuck, if you're like, oh, I'm just not seeing what plan I need to look at, then I'll give you a couple of things that you could practice. Pick one or two of these and work your way towards them. Let's say you have 30 seconds in an elevator with an important leader or a customer. What will you say? Option 2. A colleague comes to you with an issue. What do you do? Do you listen? Do you give advice? Something else? Third option. A team member has a terrible family member experience and you learn about it. What do you do? What do you say? Do you help? Do you not? Do you ignore it? Do you get involved? You've got a manager on your team. They're not doing their job very well. What do you do? How long do you do that? What do you say? How do you know whether what you're doing is actually working? Last one, you make a very public mistake. What do you do? These are all activities that you can ponder, get your pre-mortem going, work your way through it. They're going to happen. If they haven't already happened, they're going to happen to you in life, in leadership. They'll help you get ready, and then take that and use it towards other plans that you've already made. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else, Yogi Berra says. And ending up someplace else isn't always a bad thing, but you'll lead better if you're planning versus being taken by surprise. See you next time. Thanks for joining.